There's a couple of things the Milwaukee Brewers should do before they get into the meat of this offseason. It's right there in front of them. We'll talk about that. A few other Brewer rumblings. Let me talk about Counsell. When doesn't Craig Counsell come up in the news? All that and more coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, there are a few things the Brewers, I think, must get done. No-brainers that are right in front of them that they need to take care of. I don't think there's any question about that. We'll get to that here on the show. Good to have you along. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Have had several guests here in the last couple of weeks. As we get into the offseason, we'll continue to roll those guests on them. Reach out to Augie here in a little bit and get him on the show here in future shows. But yeah, I like having guests in the offseason. During the season, not really have a chance to get a guest on. We talk about the game and ramble on for a half hour and take your emails and all that. So there's not a lot of room for that. But here in the offseason, there's plenty of room to stretch out. Chuck Freeman, first-year host of Locked On Brewers. I love doing the show. I absolutely love doing Locked On Brewers. Really, when I first started this, had a chance to do this in mid-March, I was like, how is this going to go? But I love it. I look forward to doing these podcasts, being on the air with you and talking Brewers baseball, our favorite team. And yeah, I drive by Miller Park, AmFam Field, and usually a couple times a week, once a week at least, when I'm going to do my Friday football show on my way to the network. And I just think about, man, I wish we were going this way instead of this way because I got to go left instead of right. And I was like, man, I wish we could be going to AmFam Field for a playoff game. Like Friday night, I wish we could be going to a World Series. Tuesday night, I wish we were playing in Game 7 of the National League Championship Series against the Philadelphia Phillies. I wish that was us. It's not us for a number of different reasons. But yeah, still remember Game 7 at Miller Park at the time. I was covering the game, but I wanted to make sure my 7-year-old went to Game 7. He was 7 at the time. Yeah, he was 7 years old. But I wanted to make sure that he saw this. He didn't really understand at the time Game 7 of the NLCS and the Brewers going on, but I wanted him to be a part of history. So yeah, I got the tickets on StubHub for him and Shannon. And I sat in the stands with him. I did my post-game work. I sat in the stands with him and, went to the locker rooms and all that after the game. But still, remember driving down 94 as you're driving down westbound 94 from downtown. And you're looking at the ballpark and you're saying, man, I'm driving of all the thousands of times I've driven by and I've driven to Miller Park. I'm going to Game 7 of the NLCS. Again, I've been there thousands of times covering games, meaningless games, sometimes games that have no bearing on playoff standings at all, a lot of times. But here I'm driving to Game 7 of the NLCS. The Brewers went on to lose that game against the Dodgers. But still, it was fun being there and just enjoyed that 2018 ride. So yeah, now when I'm driving to the network, I say to myself, man, I wish we were playing ball tonight. Wish we were, but we still have a ways to get there. Yeah, Arizona could be us, but it's not. They found a way to do it, and here we are talking about whether or not we should re-sign Mark Canha, Carlos Santana, and what to do with Brandon Woodruff, and should Corbin Burns be traded. It's something that we'll be talking about a lot in the offseason. So, all right. Again, follow me on Google, Spotify, Apple. Our podcasts are on all the major platforms. We're the number one Brewers podcast on the internet for a reason, because of you great Brewer fans out there. You guys who follow us along every day, watch these videos, comment on YouTube. Go to YouTube. Hey, we're still taking new subscribers on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. I see your comments on there that you put them on. I see them on Twitter as well. I love reading them, and we got a busy off season, and we're going to go through this together, talking Brewers baseball as we get ready for spring training. already looking to get spring training maybe like that first week of March, depending how the high school basketball playoffs go in Wisconsin, but definitely going to be doing some shows down at spring training. Can't wait. Tell you, it's going to get here sooner than later, right when the football playoffs are starting. And like when we get to the conference finals toward the end of January, I'm thinking Brewer baseball, because it's like, all right, 3 weeks they're reporting, 2-3 weeks they're reporting to camp. So very good. I'm excited. Again, I drive by Hempfan Field and I'm already fired up for 2024. All right. So you know how to get the hold of me, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. And I said at the top, there's a couple of things that the Brewers should do, that they should do. Number one, I think re-sign Mark Canha. That's a no-brainer. The two teams have an option there. The Brewers need to pick up and keep Mark Canha. Now, yesterday we were on the show talking about picking up and then trading Mark Canha. I don't want to do that, with all due respect to my guest from brewcrewball.com, Jack Stern. He would want to trade him. I want to keep Canha as my first baseman. Now, if I got Pete Alonso somehow in the offseason, I would forget that Mark Canha ever existed. But in the meantime, Mark Canha is my first baseman right now. There's been some tweets that have been put out by Carlos Santana and one by Contreras. And Santana put one about with him being introduced, I believe, during a playoff game, and he's going right down the line, the first base line there where the players line up. And he put something out there like that, and which leads me to believe, boy, is he going to resign with the Milwaukee Brewers? Again, I would love Carlos Santana 4 years ago, but I think we need to move on. We need to get a better first base, but we're trying to win championships here. I like Santana. I wanted him in the lineup every day down the stretch, but we need to move on from Santana and have a better first baseman if we want to win. Again, he's up for a Gold Glove, and those things are so subjective. I mean, how's Bryce Terang not out for a Gold Glove? Really? How's he not got what he's done defensively? Yet Carlos Santana is. I don't quite understand it. No disrespect to Carlos Santana, but we need to move on. We need to move on. We need to improve on that first base spot. Finally, look how many guys that the Brewers have run through that first base spot since Prince Fielder. We've all thought we had our guy there, any one of those names. Some of those guys are just stopgaps. And Carlos and Rowdy Tellez, obviously, he's not coming back. I would be stunned if they tendered him and made him the first baseman going into the season. Okay, stunned. Santana, no, is not the answer. We need to do better. Mark Canha would be my option at first base. I think he's a better option than Santana. Professional hitter, good clubhouse guy, a guy you can count on. I really can. Doesn't have the glove that Santana has, but not bad. I take him at first base. But again, if you could even do better than him at first base, Mark Canha, I would take it. Brandon Woodruff, 2-year contract. Buying him out of this final year of control and then signing him to another year relatively cheap. I would take that gamble. Now, you're risking Brandon Woodruff if he's going to come back from the shoulder surgery. I know we're not talking about a sprained ankle here. We're talking about a major shoulder surgery he had. So, but I would still do it. I would bet on Brandon Woodruff coming back. Yeah, there's an unknown, but my gut feeling tells me with being around him and what he has and his ability to persevere, I think Brandon Woodruff would be a good sign. If you can get him for 2 years, sign him for this year and then sign him for his year of control, and we'll find out what happens from there. So you'd have a year to work with him. He'd come back with a shoulder injury. You'd pay him for this off year for the shoulder, and then for 2025, we'll see what happens there. And of course, 2025, if he doesn't come back, if it's 2 years, then you would cut bait and you make him a free agent. But if you got to pay 2 years for the guy, I would take that gamble. Now, at what price? That's a good one. He's going to have his arbitration price coming up here. And then the year after that, which is not under team control, we would see. But I would like to do a 2-year contract and see how he is. Again, my gut feeling is he's going to come back and be fine. Wade Miley, another no-brainer. Mutual contract option. Wade Miley has got to be back on this team. I know he's aging, but I'm gonna empty that fuel tank on Wade Miley. He's pitched well when he's been here. I like it. It's a good spot, good comfort level. He likes being here. You're probably going to have to give him more than $4 million a year, but I would like Wade Miley coming back. I don't know what that mutual option might be for a little bit more, like $6 million maybe. But I think I want Wade Miley back for another season. Again, it's got to be a mutual option on that. If I'm the Brewers, I'm in. Now, if Wade is in, we'll see. He probably wants something maybe a little long-term, although he's flirted with talking about retirement. So maybe he doesn't want to even come back next year. Maybe he does. Maybe he wants to come back for 1 year. Then you got the mutual option. He wants to come back. You want him back. I want Wade Miley back for next year. Some rumblings about Craig Counsell we're going to get to. Chuck Freeman here. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Everybody, thanks for joining me here on our various platforms, Google, Spotify, Apple, and all the major downloads. And, of course, on YouTube, you go to YouTube, Locked On Brewers, search Locked On Brewers. You'll find us right there. This show brought to you by FanDuel. October baseball is back. You can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. You can bet on any sport right here with FanDuel. But baseball, got Game 7 going on in the NLCS. You can do live betting in there. And, of course, you got the World Series. You got college football, the NBA starting on Tuesday night. Get on all the action from the first pitch to the final out from the opening tip on in the NBA. Bet on everything in baseball from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game. You're not going to want to wait the whole game again. Those in-game bets, the quick bets, go to what's going to happen in the next at bat. Go to quick bets. Head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step to the plate this postseason. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment with FanDuel count, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. This is Chuck Freeman, host of Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We come back, we'll talk about Craig Counsell. Some Craig Counsell. I don't know if I'm going to read too much into what was reported today, but we'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. There was a report in New York that said that Craig Counsell would embrace going to New York. Well, why wouldn't he embrace going to New York? Why wouldn't anybody? That was a pretty general statement from one of the reports out in New York. He would embrace coming to New York. Of course. Counsell's one of those guys who feels that, and I agree, baseball managers should be paid more than they are. For some reason, they're not. Players make 15 times more than some of these managers. But I think a manager, if you're Counsell, you want to win a World Series, let's face it, as much as we love the Brewers, his best shot at winning a World Series is with the New York Mets. It is. With that open wallet over there, absolutely. When we're talking about having to re-sign guys like Woodruff and taking a chance on him and, Santana and what we're going to do with Wade Miley, and they're talking about Shohei, okay, yes, you'd be a fool not to consider the New York Mets, okay? He's in his early 50s. His kids are growing up. Yeah, moving to New York. He's got a couple of kids, I think, later on in high school. I think his girls are in high school. But his boys have moved on. But, yeah, why wouldn't you consider moving on to the New York Mets? I think he's their number one choice. And some people have asked, well, how come this move has not made yet? I think two things. He's under contract to the end of October, and Major League Baseball wants all this news quieted. Although there's rumblings today that Bob Melvin is going to the San Francisco Giants. He's going to manage every team in California before it's all said and done. He's been with Oakland, went to San Diego, and now apparently he's going to be the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. But as far as Counsell can get any job he wants. If the New York Yankees job would open up, Aaron Boone stepped down or was fired, and he was considered for that job, it wouldn't surprise me. Counsell, his track record is there. With a small market, getting a lot done with very little. I know his postseason record isn't very good. I get that. Lately, his postseason record has not been very good. But he's still a hot commodity out there. And yeah, would he embrace going to New York? Of course he would. And, let's talk about, well, he's a Milwaukee guy. Yeah, he's a Milwaukee guy. But come on, don't let that fool you. Don't let that fool you that he's a Milwaukee guy, that he's going to stay in Milwaukee. A chance to manage the New York Mets. Remember, he's played for other teams before. He's won World Series in other markets before. All right. He didn't come to the Milwaukee Brewers till late in his career. So to say that, well, he's a Milwaukee guy. Well, yeah, he's still a manager. He's still, just like a player, a manager's on the road for 81 games a year too, just like in his playing days. So would he go to New York? People try to say, well, he wants to stay home. Nobody knows. I don't even know. But I'm just saying, why wouldn't he consider going to New York? I mean, the Mets in Milwaukee, come on. The way baseball is these days, no salary cap. Yes. It would be frustrating. Why do you think David Stearns left the Brewers? He went to the Mets. He saw he couldn't win in Milwaukee. Now, we like to think we can, and I'm not saying it's out of the possibility, but your chances are better in New York. There's no doubt about that. All right. Craig Counsell, I think, is going, if I would make a guess, I think he's going to New York. That would be my guess. When we return, we're going to talk first base options. We're going to go right down the road here, right down the road at every position, and take one base and one position every day. We'll start with first base. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Gametime. Man, Gametime is a great place to go for all your tickets. And like, you want Milwaukee Bucks tickets, you want tickets to college sports, theater, concerts. I got some concert tickets on there this past weekend at Gametime. Last minute tickets, all in prices, views from your seat, the best price guaranteed. The last minute tickets, those flash deals, those zone tickets. And all you got to do is push on where you want your seat, a seat that you're interested in. You push right on, and it'll show you the view as to where you're going. You look at it and say, oh, man, I want to sit there. Boom, boom, boom. You're in. A couple of clicks, you're in. See the view from your seat before you buy it. You'll know exactly what to expect when you arrive. No surprises. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds with those 2 taps. All in prices show your total up front, so you know that you're getting a great deal with all these, no hidden feels. You're not going to go, hit the deal and then hit like 16 more takes and the price keeps going up. No, a couple of hits and you're going to get your price. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB for $20. $20 off your purchase. You might buy $40 worth of tickets. You get $20 off. Are you kidding me? Jump to this deal. Download the Gametime app. That's your first step. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That is Gametime. All right, we'll come right back after this and talk about the first base spot next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. Chuck Freeman, your host, here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I do got to take a drink. Lemonade with some keto juice powder. Keeps the energy. I'm trying to lose like 10 pounds more, and I'm stuck. I am stuck on that weight right now, and I can't get over the hump. So I'm trying to fast, do what I can, less fast food, less pizza, less burgers, and trying to fast and work out harder, but I'm stuck on the weight loss thing. I need 10 more pounds. Like my new sign back there, for those of you watching us on YouTube, my new on-air sign that we just put up. By the way, follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. Love reading your comments every day. The first base spot. What should the Brewers do about first base? Well, the free agent market, we're going to know more about the free agent market here in the next couple of weeks. But if we're talking right now, as of right now, Mark Canha is my first baseman. Carlos Santana, hey, we liked having you here in September and in August and all that. It was great having you here. You fit in well at the clubhouse, but sorry, we're moving on. Josh Donaldson, not an option. Josh Donaldson was here for a month, and he didn't get along with Rowdy Tellez. Now, who cares really? But Josh Donaldson, man, he's got that innate ability to carry himself like a 15-time All-Star that he's not. At this point, with so many years of batting 190. No, somebody asked me, Josh Donaldson coming back, put him at first base? Absolutely not. Mark Canha? Yeah, absolutely. Would I want him as my first baseman? As of right now, Canha is my first baseman. I'm re-signing him. I'm agreeing to him, and he's going to be my first baseman. Now, should I? If I was the Brewers, I would love to make a big splash out there, and trading for a first baseman would be ideal. I would love to trade for Pete Alonso, and I know somebody might laugh at that, but the Brewers were in talks earlier this year, trading deadline, regarding Pete Alonso, and having that stick and at first base and the 45, 50 home runs he's going to hit. Yeah, I'd give up anybody not named Jackson Chourio. You name it. What prospect do you want, Stearnsy? You tell me, what prospect do you want? Can't have Chourio, but you can go pick anybody else. So you want Sal Frelick? You got it. I'm talking Pete Alonso here, but I'm doing Pete Alonso, making sure I'm going to re-sign the guy, because you're not re-signing Corbin Burns. And with Woodruff right now, you're probably, if you re-sign him, you're going to get a little discount here for the foreseeable future. So you got some money to spend. Pete Alonso, yes, I want Pete Alonso here as my first baseman. Go out and make a trade for him. And if it means giving up Frelick, okay. If it means giving up Frelick, okay. And I know some of you guys thought I was crazy back, a few months ago, when it was Frelick mania, but I'm okay. I think some of you might be leaning my way on that too. Do I look at Sal Frelick as being a good player? Yes. Do I think he's going to be a can't miss? We don't know that. But I know Pete Alonso is a can't miss. And if I can get that good young bat in the prime of his career in my lineup at AmFam Field, that's what the Brewers need, a difference maker. And difference makers are either at first or third base most of the time. You want those to be your power spots. And the Brewers have suffered for too long at both of those spots, especially at first base. The Brewers have been going to postseasons without having a legit, bona fide, great first baseman. And they've been getting away with it. Amazingly, they've been getting away with it. This would be their opportunity. Go get Pete Alonso. And if you can't, find me a first baseman on the free agent market. If I can't get anybody, it's Mark Canha. And if it's not Canha, I'm going to find a place to play Canha on this team. I know it's a crowded outfield. We'll get to that a little bit later on in future shows. But I want a first base. I want a stud at first base. Starts with Pete Alonso, and then I'll work my way down and see what I can get. But I want a big guy, a big bopper. I know Rowdy Tellez is not an option either. Rowdy Tellez, hey, he had his Rowdy Tellez bobblehead day. We love our big first baseman here, but Rowdy's moving on. Not because Rowdy wants to move on, because Rowdy, we need to do better than what Rowdy did this past year. Home runs, very few. Hurt, I get it. 6 weeks or so he was hurt. Played injured. Batting average, I'm tired of a 213 first baseman. Okay? I'm tired of batting a guy out there who's just going to hit me a home run. I want Pete Alonso. Or a reasonable facsimile to Pete Alonso. So that's what I want at first base. But if I have to do with Mark Canha and be the, as Bart Winkler said, we are Mark Canha, the Milwaukee Brewers, meaning guys you get on the cheap and hope they overproduce like a Mark Canha. And that's what you're hoping for with that. But I'd love to take just a shot at it. Take a big shot. Wind up and take a shot. I think the Brewers really need to do that here in the offseason. Wind up and take a shot at somebody. Pete Alonso's my guy. Wind up and take a shot at it. All right, that's going to do it for the show today. That's going to do it for the show. Bryce Harper's comment. When they won the game the other night, you spend money for times like this. Talking about the Phillies and their high payroll. Yep. Just rub it into the small markets. And I agree, you got to spend some money, but let's face it, the Brewers are never going to have the payroll of the Texas Rangers or the Philadelphia Phillies. That's just not the way it works. NBA, how do you like the system of the NBA? The Bucks can re-sign a Giannis Antetokounmpo for $63 million. the Brewers can't do something like that. I love the NBA system. NBA system works where you can keep a superstar. Baseball, you can't keep your superstar. And if you do, you're going to have to bargain basement him and hope he overproduce because like a Christian Yelich, if he doesn't overproduce and as an MVP candidate, you paid all this money for the guy and you feel like you're wasting money. It's going to do it. Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.